This is a key to topic 23, part A, worksheet 3. And on this worksheet, you are asked to divide these polynomials, and you want to, using long division, and you want to write it as a quotient plus the remainder divided by the divisor. So let's look at number one. So number one, we have this polynomial divided by this polynomial. Now remember, when using long division, you have to make sure that your numerator, which then becomes the dividend, if there are any missing terms, you have zeros as our missing terms. And also, it has to be in descending order. All right, now the divisor, which is the denominator, does not have to be, the missing zeros do not have to be there, but you have to be careful. So I'm going to show you in a couple of problems where for the divisor, um, if you don't put the missing zeros, you're not going to have an issue, but you do need the missing zeros for the numerator, for the dividend. All right, so in both cases, though, it has to be in descending order. So if I put the divisor is the denominator, so that's going to be x squared minus x minus 4, so in descending order. And the numerator, you have x to the fifth, x to the fourth, x cubed, x squared, x to the first, and your constant. So it is already in descending order, and there are no missing terms. So I'm just going to write out 2x to the fifth plus x to the fourth minus 15x cubed minus 2x squared plus 10x minus 24. All right, now let's go ahead and use long division. So remember, it's first divided by first, and it'll be a set of process. You keep repeating this until the degree of the remainder is less than the degree of the divisor. And the degree of the divisor here is 2, the largest exponent. Okay, so basically you're saying this. Let me go ahead and kind of do that here. So you can actually do this in terms of your memory. So you have 2x to the fifth divided by x squared. So when I divide this, I get 2, and then remember, you divide like bases, subtract exponents. 5 subtract 2 is 3, so you get 2x cubed. All right, so 2x to the fifth divided by x squared is 2x cubed. I'm going to put that over the x cubed column. So you want those missing zeros so you can have that alignment purposes. That's one of the main reasons. So you get 2x cubed and put that here. And then you take what you just wrote and you multiply by all terms of your divisor. So 2x cubed times x squared is, all right, so 2x cubed times x squared is 2x to the fifth. X cubed times x squared, when you multiply like bases, you add exponents. Now remember, if you're doing this correctly, every time you do that process, you repeat that process, remember these have to be the same, so that when you subtract, you're going to get 0. 2x cubed times a negative x is a negative 2x to the fourth. 2x cubed times a negative 4 is a negative 8x cubed. All right, and then we're going to subtract. Okay, now 2x to the fifth minus 2x to the fifth, that's 0. X to the fourth, subtract a negative 2x to the fourth. Now remember what that does. So if you need to write out what you just did here, go and do that. X to the fourth. So subtracting a negative x to the fourth means the same thing as adding a positive 2x to the fourth. So you're saying x to the fourth and a positive 2x to the fourth, which is 3x to the fourth. So if you have to do that, what I just did, then you go ahead and you do that. A negative 15x cubed, subtract a negative 8x cubed. So again, some of you may have some issues with subtracting a negative. So if that's the case, then remember, subtracting a negative 8x cubed means the same thing as adding a positive 8x cubed, adding 8x cubed. All right, and so then we have a negative 15x cubed and a positive 8x cubed, which becomes a negative 7x cubed. And then we bring down the next term. And then notice the degree here is 4. The degree here is 2, so I must continue dividing. So you do first divided by first. So you have 3x to the fourth divided by x squared. So remember, 3x to the fourth, 3x to the fourth, 3x to the fourth divided by x squared is 3x squared. X to the fourth divided by x squared is x squared. And if you're doing this correctly, so remember we said 3x squared. So let's put that over the like terms. So plus 3x squared. Now you take this and you take what you just wrote and you multiply by every term of your divisor. So 3x squared times x squared is 3x to the fourth. If you're doing this correctly, these have to be the same. Then 3x squared times a negative x is a negative 3x squared. 3x squared times a negative 4 is a negative 12x squared. I'm sorry, that's supposed to be cubed right here. X squared times x is x cubed, so that's x cubed. All right, so then you're going to subtract. All right, now when I subtract, this part's easy because you can easily see that 3x to the fourth minus itself is 0. Now remember, as we talked before, all these have to cancel out the first terms of every iteration of our division has to cancel out. A negative 7x cubed subtract a negative 3x cubed means the same thing as negative 7x cubed plus 3x cubed. So if you have to write that plus 3x cubed, you do that. Negative 7x cubed and 3x cubed will give us a negative 4x cubed. Okay? Negative 2x squared subtract a negative 12x squared. So again, you're subtracting you're taking the opposite of negative 12x squared. You're subtracting a negative 12x squared, which means adding 12x squared. So negative 2x squared plus 12x squared is 10x squared. Then you bring on the next term. Notice the degree here is 3. The degree here is 2. You continue the division. Negative 4x cubed divided by x squared is a negative 4x. So that goes here. Align your like terms. Then you take what you just wrote and multiply by every term of your divisor. Negative 4x squared times x is negative 4x cubed. Doing this correctly, these have to be the same. Negative 4x times a negative 4, negative 4x times a negative x is a positive 4x squared. Negative 4x times a negative 4 is a positive 16x, and then you subtract. Negative 4x cubed subtract itself is 0. 10x squared subtract 4x squared is 6x squared. 10x subtract 16x is a negative 6x. And then you bring down the next term. Notice the degree here is 2. The degree here is 2. You continue on. You stop when the degree is less. 6x squared divided by x squared is 6. That's plus 6. And then you do the multiplication. 6 times 6x squared, 6 times x squared is 6x squared. 6 times a negative x is a negative 6x. 6 times a negative 4 is a negative 24. And then you subtract. 6x squared subtract 6x squared, that's 0. A negative 6x squared subtract itself is 0. A negative 24 subtract itself is 0. So the remainder is 0. So you're done. The degree of a constant is 0. The degree of a constant is 0, and 0 is less than x squared. And besides, you have a remainder 0, so you're done. So now how do you write the answer? So remember, this is your quotient, right? So the answer, you're going to say the quotient, which is 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x plus 6 plus the remainder divided by the divisor. Remember, this is your divisor. So divided by x squared minus x minus 4. Now, since the remainder is 0, 0 divided by any rational expression or any number other than 0 is 0. So you can just write the quotient as the answer. So you can say that's just 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x plus 6, right? So it kind of makes sense because remember, if I have something like 8 plus 0 divided by 2, right? 0 divided by 2 is 0, so I can just write that as 8. So 0 divided by 2 is 0. 8 plus 0 is 8. Okay. All right, so that was number 1. So notice in number 1, I did get a remainder of 0. All right. Number 2. So in number 2, we have this in number 2. So it's written horizontally, but remember that and here's the work. So remember, you're going to write it as a numerator and the denominator. So you have 4x cubed minus 6x squared plus 5 divided by x squared minus 4. Okay? All right, now notice there are some missing terms in the numerator, and there are some missing terms in the denominator. So remember, the numerator is your dividend, the denominator is your divisor. Now when I go ahead and use that long division format, so I'm going to go ahead and put the missing term in the divisor. So you have x squared, so the x term is missing, so you say plus 0x and then minus 4. The dividend, the numerator, you must put the missing terms. You must put the missing terms. So I have 4x cubed minus 6x squared. The x term's missing, so plus 0x and then plus 5. Okay? All right, so now we're going to do long division. So when I do long division, I have 4x cubed divided by x squared is just 4x, right? It's just 4x. And put that on over the x column. Then what I just wrote, we multiply by every term of the divisor. 4x times x squared is 4x cubed. Doing this correctly, these have to be the same. 4x times 0x is 0x squared. 4 times 0 is 0. X times x is x squared. 4x times negative 4 is a negative 16x. All right, and then I subtract. 4x cubed minus itself is 0. A negative 6x squared minus 0x squared is a negative 6x squared. 0x subtract a negative 16x. So remember, if you need to think about it differently, subtracting a negative 16x or taking the opposite of a negative 16x is adding a 16x. So 0x plus 16x is 16x. And then we bring on the next term. Then you do the process all over again. A negative 6x squared divided by x squared is a negative 6. And then you multiply. Negative 6 times x squared is a negative 6x squared. Negative 6 times 0x is 0x. A negative 6 times a negative 4 is a positive 24. And then you subtract. A negative 6x squared minus itself is 0. 16x subtracts 0x is 16x. 5 subtract 24 is a negative 19. All right. Now notice the degree here is 1. The degree here is 2. You're done. That is your remainder. All right. So that's your quotient. And now this is your remainder. Notice the work. This is the work you have to show. All right. So then the answer then will be the quotient, which is 4x minus 6, plus, you must say plus, the remainder divided by the divisor. So this denominator must be this denominator here, which is the divisor. But when writing the divisor, don't put the 0 term. Just actually write this. So x squared minus 4. All right? And so there's your answer. All right, so that was number 2. Okay, number 3. All right, number 3, we have this. And so, all right, so we're going to do long division. So the denominator is your divisor. Now notice there is a missing term here. You see the constant's missing. So I'm going to leave it off just to show you that missing term is not needed in the divisor. But your missing terms are needed in the dividend. And it's already in descending order. So we're going to have 6x to the 4th plus 5x cubed plus 3x I'm sorry, 0. See, the x squared term's missing, right? So 0x squared. So don't forget the x squared term. Plus 3x, and then your constant. So I only had one missing term, and that was the x squared term. And notice I indicated it as 0x squared. Okay, so then we do the long division. So you're saying 6x to the fourth, oops, 6x to the fourth divided by 3x squared. 6 divided by 3 is 2, right? X to the 4 divided by x squared is x squared. So that becomes 2x squared. So I'm going to put that here, 2x squared, over the x squared column. What I just wrote, I multiply by every term of the divisor. 2x squared times 3x squared is 6x to the fourth. 2x squared times a negative 2x is a negative 4x cubed. Okay, and then I subtract. All right, so that's what I get. All right, now 6x to the fourth, 6x to the fourth, subtract itself is 0, right? 5x cubed minus 4x cubed. So if you have to rewrite it, go ahead and rewrite it. So subtracting negative 4x cubed is the same thing as adding 4x cubed. So when I add these, 5x cubed plus 4x cubed, I get 9x cubed. And then bring on the next term. Okay? Then I do the division all over again. 9x cubed divided by 3x squared is 3x. So that goes here. Then 3x times 3x squared is 9x cubed. 3x times a negative 2x is a negative 6x squared. And then I subtract. 9x cubed minus itself is 0. 0x squared and subtract a negative 6x squared. So remember, subtracting a negative 6x squared means the same thing as adding 6x squared. So 0x squared plus 6x squared is 6x squared. Then you bring on the next term. And I can continue this process all over. Because the degree here is 2, the degree here is 2. I continue on. 6x squared divided by 3x squared is just 2. 2 times 3x squared is 6x squared. 2 times a negative 2x is a negative 4x. And then I subtract. 6x squared subtract itself is 0. Remember, every time you do this, the first column has to always cancel out. 3x squared subtract negative 4x. So subtracting a negative 4x means adding 4x. So 3x plus 4x is 7x. Bring on the next term. Now, notice the degree here is 1. The degree here is 2, so I'm done. So that's your remainder. You don't do the division anymore. So the answer then will be the quotient. It will be 2x squared plus 3x plus 2 plus, you must say plus, the remainder divided by the divisor, which is 3x squared. So this denominator must be this denominator. So 3x squared minus 2x. All right, and so there's the answer there. Okay, all right. Now, finally, number 4. So the last one. So number 4. So let's go ahead and rewrite this as a fraction. So I'm going to have 5x to the 4th plus 14x cubed plus 9x divided by x squared plus 2x. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that long division. And this time I'm going to go ahead and put that 0 term in the divisor. So x squared plus 2x plus 0 divided into, okay, so remember, if there's any missing terms in your dividend, you must put in as a missing 0. So I have 5x to the 4th. That's my leading term. My next is x cubed, so plus 14x cubed. The x squared is missing, so I'm going to say plus 0x squared. Then plus 9x, and then my constant's missing, so plus 0. Okay, so let's do the multiplication, or the division. First divided by first. 5x to the 4th divided by x squared is 5x squared. So that's going to go here. 5x squared times x squared is 5x to the 4th. Those are the same. 5x squared times 2x is 10x cubed. 5x squared times 0 is 0x squared. and then you subtract. Okay? 5x to the fourth minus itself is 0. 14x cubed minus 10x cubed is 4x cubed. 0x squared minus 0x squared is 0x squared. And we bring on the next term, 9x. All right. So now we do the division all over again because the degree here is 3, the degree here is 2. 4x cubed divided by x squared is 4x. 4x times x squared is 4x cubed. 4x times 2x is 8x squared. 4x times 0 is 0x. 4 times 0 is 0. Okay, so then we're going to subtract. 4x cubed minus itself is 0. 0x squared subtract 8x squared is a negative 8x squared. 9x subtract 0x is 9x. Bring on the next term. I continue on. The degree here is 2. The degree here is 2. Negative 8x squared divided by x squared is a negative 8. Negative 8 times x squared is a negative 8x squared. Negative 8 times 2x is a negative 16x. Negative 8 times 0 is 0. And then you subtract. Negative 8x squared minus itself is 0. 9x subtract a negative 16x is the same thing. Subtracting a negative 16x, or the opposite of a negative 16x is a positive 16x. So 9x plus 16x is 25x. And then plus 0. But remember, that's just 25x. All right, and we're done. So notice the degree here is 1. The degree here of the divisor is 2, so you can't do the division anymore. So that's your remainder. And so then the answer, you're going to say the quotient, which is this, so 5x squared plus 4x minus 8 plus, you must say plus, the remainder divided by the divisor. And if you're going to say this is the divisor or this is the divisor, just make sure you don't put the 0 in your answer. So it's just x squared plus 2x. And that's it. So that's the answer. So that is the key. Let me see if I can get it real quick. So that is the key to this worksheet on using long division.